Teen Titans Academy issue 1. This is Tim Sheridan writing with Rafa Sandoval on the art. And we've joked about this being very X-Men-y. I actually almost let out a laugh when I saw their hallways leading to the danger room, and I was like, wait, this is literally the X-Men underneath the mansion.
And the fact that they're fighting hard light.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna be out in the open. I did not like this that much, and I'm very disappointed. Nothing in here, like, it's got a great premise, don't get me wrong. It's the Titans training the new people, the new kids. It feels almost like an Elseworlds at times. And it's very awkward in the stories that it wants to tell. So yeah. Pete, how'd you feel?
I think I'm more positive than you, because that was a very negative
It was, and I don't want to be that negative, but like, it was just stuff just feels off.
I think I'm at a point where I like just about everything it's trying to do. I think I actually think the first page is very good, so I don't know if it's saying much, but like, just but it's sort of teasing this kind of like the awe of like getting to Titan's Tower. It's this, we see the silhouettes of the original New Teen Titans in the distance, kind of.
And but Dick is practicing his speech.
I like some of the banter between the original members. Some of the dialogue is a bit hit or miss elsewhere with the new characters, but I do actually kind of appreciate that it's trying to introduce a whole batch of new characters, because X-Men's done this a bunch of times over the years, where from the ones I've read, like Aaron's Wolverine and the X-Men, or even Uncanny X-Men when Bendis was doing both books and stuff like that, where they'll have like a batch of new characters and they'll be introducing them. It's kind of trying to do that. What's weird about that conceptually is that the whole idea of the Teen Titans originally was all these sidekicks, for the most part, the sidekicks who were teaming up, kind of like the Justice League, were all these main characters who were teaming up. So it's kind of funny that we're at a point where we're just creating a bunch of characters to be Titans when that wasn't originally the thing, right? So that's to say that you can, but it is very different conceptually. It does make it feel more X-Men-y by default, but I like them trying to be teachers. I did think some of the humor was a bit forced, like the idea that correcting, like Starfire corrects herself, said, sorry, it's Mr. Nightwing. I'm like, would they really make the kids call him Mr. Nightwing?
No,
it's a bit silly to me.
And then there's the Harry Potter line, which I appreciated. It did not land the way I think Sheridan wanted it to.
I agree with that. It sounds like someone is complaining that he can't talk about Harry Potter, and I don't think that's the point he's trying to make.
No. So like, I do appreciate it again, because I feel very similar to how the students feel about that. But it didn't land.
The sad part is as part of this exchange, so Nightwing's talking to his small class, and he says he sort of says something about the defense of the dark arts. We don't hear the start of it. We just hear the end of the sentence, and then he says, "Oh, I guess you're too young for that reference." And they respond, "No, we get the reference. It's just it's problematic to talk about now." So the joke being is Nightwing thinks he's having "I'm too old for these kids" moment. Which, to be honest, the fact that there's a character saying that, oh wait, I guess you're too young for that when he's talking about Harry Potter, made me feel old. So that's a thing.
But it also feels disingenuous, I think, a little bit too. Whereas I wish they were like, I just feel the way that the joke went should have been like, oh yeah, we find it problematic, but we're aware of it, versus them going like, oh yeah, we're not going to talk about it, period. Like, you're right, where it was like, oh yeah, it was almost like Sheridan being like, oh, I can't make a Harry Potter joke. And I was just like, that's not where the humor comes from. The humor comes from I'm too old for this reference, where really he shouldn't be. I mean, because how much older do you think Dick is than these kids at this point?
That's hard to say at this point.
Gotta be at least mid-20s at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, early 30s at the oldest.
Depends where Bruce is these days.
But anyway, I actually think that the joke, like, I think there's something in the joke that kind of works. I just don't think the way it's written clicks. Because there's something I kind of like about the joke here, which is he thinks he's made a reference that these young kids won't get because of their age, but the joke is actually no, it's just that kids are really woke now, and that's actually there's nothing wrong with that joke. There's just something about it that comes off a little bit weird, and I don't.
Part of it is I hate this whole, because I don't know how old Tim Sheridan is, but this whole fake social media narrative, and the millennials are supposed to be feuding with the generation under them, whatever it's called, and it's like, well, I know plenty of people in that, and I don't feel like, and I feel like that's what this was going for, right? And I don't know. Again, it felt disingenuous to me, and it could have been funny. There is a way to do it. This is just not it.
I don't think that is what it's going for. I think, to me, I mean, pointing out differences in the generation is not necessarily trying to tie into what a weird social media thing where the generations are apparently feuding or whatever.
No, but I feel like them going, it's problematic, and it's Nightwing going like, oh, or there's commentary on like, oh, like you said, these kids are so woke. You know what I mean? Like, again, there's a way to do it. This just wasn't it. And I feel but
what you just said there, though, implied that you can never point out these generational differences without it feeling like to you that they're tying it into.
You whatever. Can just, there's a skill to it, because I see it too often where like you're supposed to buy in that the generation below us are a bunch of morons, but look at Connor. Connor's technically the generation before us, and we don't hate him simply because he's younger.
He's still a millennial.
I'm still a millennial.
So okay. And this is where stuff goes, because I've heard within 10 years below, that's where that starts.
That's
that
all.
Next generation that people are having issues with.
No, there are exact splits.
No.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, then, whatever it is, again,
I think
my
it's up to like 96 or 97, you're a millennial.
Really? That's a pretty wide.
Yeah, I think the cutoff of because they're defined retroactively, right?
Right.
So the cutoff for millennial is if you obviously there's the starting point, which is wherever.
Mm-hmm.
The end point is if you were old enough to have memories of 9/11 at the time, you're a millennial. If not, you're the next one.
Zoomer.
Jeez.
So Zoomer is the one after that? Yeah,
I think it's Zoomer.
Well, so whatever one it is, right? Like, look, my sentiment with this, how this joke doesn't land, is my main issue with this book is like, there's stuff that's almost there. It's just not executed in a way that
that one almost works for me. It's just a little bit off. There's actually a line later on that it felt more forced to me. And again, I like the sentiment that I think he was trying to go for. It's when the two kids are sitting at lunch, and so one of the characters, which I actually thought was quite funny, there's a character who's effectively a doll, but is alive, and I'm sure that's something the book will explain more as it goes on. Right. But there's a joke where basically this other kid's asking, okay, so what are you exactly? Are you some kind of animated androgynous ragdoll? And they respond with, I prefer non-binary effigy, which I thought that was funny. See, if he stopped there, I actually thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But then he says, though I prefer genderqueer quilted American. Oh, just kidding, I'm not American. It went a little bit too far, and I went, okay, I don't think that was that funny anymore. But and again, I think it's well intentioned. I don't think there's anything
right.
I feel like it's coming off as like someone who's old, like almost trying to make fun of how people talk now. But I don't think that's the intention. I think the intention is to try and have it be more inclusive and have it reference like current day things. It's just that it's coming off weird. I don't know.
Right. I'm looking up to see how old Tim Sheridan is. See if he's in our age bracket.
I couldn't find an age. I mean, you can get pictures and guess, but I mean, I'm not very good at
that. Yeah, no. But
he's not like massively older than.
No, because I do feel like that. I said this at the beginning. It felt like an Elseworlds book where it almost feels like this is a continuation of the Cartoon Network Teen Titans show. I get that vibe.
That would make sense, especially with Red X.
Right. You have the Red X. You have the main, the new Teen Titans era main lineup, right? And just their dynamics. You have the Starfire, Dick Grayson, and the Beast Boy and Cyborg being like best buddies. And constantly ragging on each other.
Going. It takes so long to respond. The tone gets worse the longer it takes.
Anyway,
It does.
but yeah, Beast Boy, Cyborg, best buddies. And there's all of that stuff, and all that stuff. I feel that part works, but it's just trying to juggle all these different threads, because every time you spend time with the teachers, you also have to spend time with the students, and the students aren't that well developed yet because a lot of them are brand new. So you get a lot of awkward moments that, for me, just didn't work. And there's almost too much going on at points,
I'll give it some credit. I never felt there was too much. I felt I felt like it did a decent job balancing the fact that it's got the new Teen Titans teachers. It's got kind of the present day Teen Titans, who I mostly don't know, to be honest, out in the field. It's got these kids, these students. It did a decent enough job where I never felt overwhelmed by that. And it had a through line. The through line being someone asked about Red X, and then there was a Red X mask left at Dick's birthday party, which is something that happens in the book. And then, there's like, okay, who left the mask? And they speculate that someone left it as a joke, but it's kind of weird because it's not even just like someone made a mask. It's literally the mask he wore when he was running from Deathstroke many moons ago.
Right, and they hint that two other people picked up the mask after him.
Yes.
So there's all that stuff there that stuff all works for me. It's just, again, I'm going to give it another issue or two before I decide.
What's interesting, I'll get back to that comment in a second. Yeah. What's interesting is the general consensus I saw on Twitter and various places was that it wasn't bad, but the thing that I saw come up repeatedly was that it was quite rushed. And it feels like Matt definitely kind of hits on that, but Pete, maybe not so much.
It may be a little overstuffed, but I didn't get too rushed because there's the simple things that it kind of sets up. Like it sets up that Tubi, which is short for totally tubular, who can turn into a tube, has to roommate with Roundhouse, I believe his name is, and they kind of have like a rivalry, and they kind of both make fun of each other's powers, and they kind of have a bit of a stare off, and it's just a 1-page thing, but it kind of just sets up enough that they can do a gag in the second issue that'll be like half a page, but because they've set up that they've got this rivalry going, it's kind of a through line that can be there now. I didn't hate it though, because I saw a lot of lukewarm opinions before I read this, because I read this today, and maybe it's just lowered expectations, but I kind of came out of it going, you know what, I'm not in love with it by any means. Like I do think it's not reaching like sort of like great peaks or anything, but it didn't feel like a chore to read to me. Some of the new characters seem like they could be entertaining in time.
Which ones in particular?
So there's I think Totally Tubular seems fine. The Gorilla seemed like fun. Gorilla Greg.
I gotta give him credit just based off the name.
Yeah, I thought that they were fine. Just the ones that feel like they have a bit of personality. The one girl who was kind of like being made fun of because she like it sounds like she may already have a crush on Dick. Like you're hot for teacher kind of thing. There was enough little things like that just to give them some personality. And honestly, the one that I probably liked the least was the one they did the most with towards the end, which is the guy who was like melting down the danger room with his powers.
The one who they want you to believe is the Red X guy who could certainly won't be
the one who possibly could be Red X. Yes.
Yeah. They want you to believe that, and that's a red herring. In fact, I'm going to start calling him Red Herring. That's his name now.
Although they do mention Billy Batson's at this school.
Yeah. With Miguel. Miguel's there too. So they're roommates.
So
which again, that's where it starts to feel to me overstuffed, because it was like, Shazam and Miguel and these new kids and the Teen Titans and then the new Teen Titans, and
which
I don't think that's
Miguel
overstuffed
here.
though.
Are we talking about the Dial H Miguel?
Dial H, yeah.
Bunker Miguel.
I disagree that makes you feel overstuffed though, because
okay.
Because it's like one panel. It's in a panel within the cafeteria. Right, it's establishing. It's a cameo. I don't think they're going to factor into the book that much.
Based off of Future State, I believe those two are going to have a lot to do going forward.
Okay, that's fair. I was kind of forgetting.
Or else why introduce them here in the first issue? And that's what I talk about. There's a lot of balls in the air, and I feel like if we just focused on one or two instead of all six, it might be
I'll put it this way. I think this was definitely better than the first. Did I read the second Future State issue?
No,
I didn't.
Neither of us did.
Right. Okay. it was better than the first Future State issue.
Yeah, but that wasn't hard. That wasn't a good issue.
But it wasn't a terrible issue though.
No, but
there was positive things to say. I think this is more on the side of decent. I would say this was a decent comic. I think
it's fine. I wanted it to be better though. Like coming off of the Future State
for Matt, because you said, I give it 2 or 3, a couple more issues. The telling point will be when it comes to this Suicide Squad crossover in a couple of issues' time. Will you care enough to go and get an issue of Suicide Squad on top of this?
I forgot about that too.
Way. I already did an issue of Suicide Squad, so
I forgot about that too, admittedly. But I think
Connor.
Yeah, that's the reason I didn't read this. Like I said when it was solicited, you solicit a crossover with a book I'm not reading before I even read the first issue. I'm out.
Yeah, we've heard that reason 100 million times. He's like a parrot sometimes.
Anyone who hasn't heard
He's like a parrot sometimes.
Look, this is getting cut up individually on YouTube. You know full well that someone might click on Justice Review and be like, "Hey, why is he not reading this?"
Because he's Conroe and he has CR21.
Conroe.
I am CR21.
I feel like this feels like a perfectly fine mid-tier book to me from this first issue. That does an okay job of juggling a decent amount of characters. They all feel like they're in different sections. My hope would be, and what I think should happen, is that going forward, each issue would maybe hone in just 1 or 2 groups rather than try to like dance around. But even here, like the current working Teen Titans who are in the field barely get a couple of pages. They feel like they're just sort of mentioned to establish, okay, there is like a functioning team that are out there fighting things. It feels like the new kids and the Dick's team are the ones that are going to get all the real development. They're the ones that are going to get the real time. I
really hope that's the case, because that's really what I was looking forward to, is the what's his name? Roy Harper's School for Kids with Powers.
Yeah. But to be fair, I think this issue mostly does feel focused on those 2 groups.
I feel like he's got a lot of balls in the air, and I feel like there's stuff that he wants to do. If it gets that far, we'll see.
I'll be honest, Matt. I think you're being at least 50% harsher on this because of the Future State issues, not because of this issue on its own.
But again, we can praise the stuff that the other writers did with tying in. Right. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff that Tamaki has done with Detective, or
I'm not saying the Future State stuff should be discounted, right? I'm not saying because clearly
in Matt's defense as well, Sheridan has said in interviews he considers them all part of one series, like they are part of this book.
Well, see, and not knowing that though, it goes,
which is concerning. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's not concerning. I just feel like some of Matt's actual critiques that he said about this issue feel like they don't really fit this issue to me.
I went in with an open mind and went, this is not going to be like the Future State, and then it felt like the Future State stuff, and so I went, damn it, this is feeling disjointed, and like I feel again there's a lot going on for something that doesn't need that much going on. Like they could have just had the Teen Titans teachers with the new students. You could intro the other Teen Titans later, right? And go, oh, they're upperclassmen and they get to go out into the field, and one day we'll build to that, and just that time that we took with all that, we could have been focusing on these new characters, because again, I'm invested in the Red X stuff. And again, I don't think it's red herring, but
yeah,
it's Saudi summon at the school. So I didn't, going in with an open mind and putting away the Future State stuff, it didn't, it felt like Future State. Whereas I can say so far Superman and Batman on that end did not feel like those Future State things. They felt like there's some ties, but it didn't have the same tone.
I disagree though. I don't think this did feel like the Future State issue, which is kind of the key difference here. And I also think that, again, the upper class Titans, the current working functioning team that are out in the world, I don't feel like they take that much time away from these pages, and it feels more to me like it's just establishing the hierarchy of what all the Titans are in this book. It feels like it's explaining everything, but the focus is very much on Dick's team and the kids, right? I always felt that they were the focus of this issue, and it never veered from that, I don't think. Now, I'm not. It sounds like I'm coming off really defensive about this book because I think Matt's been too harsh. I think Matt
sorry, I didn't.
I don't want to say wants to dislike it, but it feels like
I think what's really for like from an outside perspective here is you say, oh, Matt's it's coming too harsh. Matt lines up with what I've seen as the more general consensus. I think you said as well, you know, your expectations were lowered based on what you read beforehand.
And
so I think
to
if
be
anything,
fair,
Pete likes it more than most.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't know that's what the general was. I mean, I put out what my thoughts were when I read it yesterday, and you know, and that's just how I felt. So that was all news to me. That this seems to be the consensus, because I tend not to line up with consensus because I have very odd tastes. You know, you know, so that's again a shock to me. But if I'm not the only one, then I feel, you know, I feel vindicated a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get the I don't think it's playing too many plates shit. Now, admittedly, because of those future state issues, I completely see why it might end up being that way. I'm not necessarily reassured that I will still like this once it gets going into any like great arcs, or once it actually starts doing all the plot beats that it wants to do. And actually, what's funny is the one thing Matt says he likes the most, the Red X stuff, is probably the stuff I like the least. But I don't really care about the Red X stuff that much. In fact, the final page, which is where it cuts to whoever Red X is punching a mirror, was probably the worst page of the book for me. But
yeah, that wasn't good. That was you know, handled clumsily, like a lot of stuff I felt in this book. However, like Ralph Dibny. I love a good mystery, you know. I kept wanting to say Elastic Man. That wasn't his name. He was Elongated Man, and I couldn't get it out. But no, I like a good mystery, and I want to know. Also, not to take anything else away, this book needs way more Starfire. That's just me, though. Like, she's the principal, head mistress.
To be fair, look,
you know,
you could probably say that about every book DC publishes.
I don't know. They're leaning into the Dick and Starfire are flirting at the end, something fierce, and it feels out of place right now.
It feels so wrong considering what we just read in Nightwing.
It does. So that is the only part that I'll agree it felt Elseworld, because nothing else about this felt Elseworld to me. That was one of the things Matt said.
Well, when I say Elseworlds, like this feels like to me the continuation of the Cartoon Network series. You know what I mean? Not like this is taking place, and then when you throw in the current Titans. Don't mind the garbage men.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what the hell is this noise in the background?
It's because I have a window open because it got hot in here. Anyways, I think we should rate this.
Matt's ready.
Matt's done.
Yeah, Matt's done. Oh, rate it then, Matt. You go first.
All right, cool. I'm gonna give it a 5. It's right down the middle.
I don't think it's a great comic. I think there's potential here. I think some dialogue doesn't land. I think Sheridan's trying too hard to be relevant in places or be witty in a way that maybe it's just not coming off correctly. But I actually disagree that there's too many things happening. It didn't feel like it was struggling to actually. Everything felt fairly well defined in terms of things. It gave me enough of the start in the characters that it can build upon later. Now, do I actually trust it to do that? Not really. I kind of just feel like this is a fine issue for what could as a mid-tier book. I'd love it if it felt better than that, but you know, that's what it is. Art is mostly fine. Sandoval, I think you know what to expect from Sandoval, typically.
There's one part I wanted to bring up. That's what I was gonna say real quick though. Is there's the scene where Corey's or Starfire's giving the opening speech, and she leans over to say something. Just the way that the art is, it's just a weird framing of her. It's on that one of those opening pages that it was, you know, Sandoval, I guess you could say is kind of a acquired taste. You know, this wasn't very indicative of Sandoval's art. So yeah, that was the one foible. Other than that, the art's pretty solid. I didn't even mention that because the story got me all railed up.
Yeah. So it's funny. I came off sounding super positive on this, and I don't think I'm actually that positive. I think it is a decent to.
It's Pete syndrome. He just wants me to be wrong, and he has to let me know how wrong he thinks I am.
He does it with me all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Connor's more wrong than you, Matt. Don't worry.
Duh. Goes without saying.
I don't know. Like I read Matt's tweet yesterday, and then I read the book today, and I'm like, why does he feel so strongly about this? I don't feel this strongly. Now, admittedly, I don't feel strongly in the other way either, which I would like to. but I don't feel that strongly about it.
Sounds like you do. Sounds like this is your book of the week.
No, it's like a 6.5.
At least we can agree that we didn't read Red Hood past a certain point.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course.
So, you know.
I love how all this arguing and the difference is only a 5 to a 6.5.
Yeah.
Well, again, because I think rating things is kind of dumb, so therefore, you know, on my 5-point scale, that basically.
I wasn't trying to argue this was a great.
Below a 5.
I wasn't trying to argue this was a great book. I was just arguing against just how negative Matt was sounding.
Again, Matt's wrong, and I'm going to explain to everybody why I think he's so wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the book justice to people who want a different opinion. That's all. That's all it is. Now, Connor, I like telling he's wrong as much as I possibly can.
You told me I was wrong for just explaining why I didn't read this book.